I think if I hear you call me Becky one more time, six-pack, I'm gonna pop your tops. All six of them.
Who are you?
Rated G.
Cowabunga! Next Saturday morning, Turtle Power! It's a special world premiere exclusive.
And I got the pizzas. We're good to go.
So many turtles, we had to make a movie just to fit them all in.
Mutant Turtle filth!
It's not true. We shower regularly.
Don't miss this one-time only Ninja Turtles special event. Next Saturday morning at 10 on the CW4 Kids.
Hey, this is Matt once again. Welcome back to another video. And this is a request from Johnny. Thank you so much. For those interested in requesting any type of videos, topics, reactions, re-reviews, pretty much any type of stuff of movies or something else, lists, just pretty much whatever, reactions. You send the request either directly to my PayPal or during my Patreon. Both things are down below in the info box. And Johnny wanted me to talk about a film that I do highly enjoy, called Turtles Forever. So you don't get the glare. Now you have the 2003 and the 80s Turtles. Right there. Now, what this was, I'm a big fan of the show. The 2003 Ninja Turtles cartoon. It's actually become my favorite cartoon, one of my favorite shows. I love this tremendously. Now, it lasted quite a few years, about seven or so seasons, and the culmination of it was this movie. And the story is that you have the 2003 Turtles, the 80s Ninja Turtles have come to their dimension. The Shredder and Crane of their world find the Shredder of the 2003 world, bring him back. It culminates with that Shredder overworking the Technodrome, using some of the tech in order to realize that, hey, there are different dimensions, there's different universes featuring the Ninja Turtles. Let me find the primary source, which becomes the black and white comic book, which I thought was a great touch. And if I destroy them, then it'll destroy all of them. And so the 2003 and 80s Turtles have to join up in order to stop it. I rewatched this. I still rather enjoy it. Now, are there nitpicks? Are there issues? Sure. But being a fan of the 2003 cartoon, I thought the animation, yes, at times I thought it was a little less quality compared to, say, the first season of the show, but still more than manageable. The 80s Turtles, they could not get the actual voices because 4Kids, who were the company making this, there. They're non-union. And because they're non-union, then the original Turtles, they could not use them. So it wasn't their fault. Now, one thing I did not notice, and I should have, is that of course nowadays this just shit on. They just shit on people like Phaelus and all these other reviewers call it a piece of shit. It's awful, it's terrible, 1 out of 10, all this crap. Now it has a decent rating on IMDb, but that's from people back in the day who saw this. And no, it's not a 10 out of 10 thing, but it's this joy and fun. Like, wow, they were able to do this, and all these different references. And nowadays people are like, oh, it's junk, it's crap. Because I guess the 2012 cartoon did a combination where the 80s Turtles, this time with their voices, they joined together. And the main reason for the complaints of this is that they feel that the 80s Turtles were too goofy, too silly, and completely disrespected. Now, yes, I think there's a couple things you could cut out that would solve those issues. But I don't think it's nearly as bad as people make it out to be. When I go through the film again and I'm watching the film again, it starts off with, yes, the 80s Turtles are prisoners because the company that made this was the 2003 Turtles. You gotta give them something to do. It's their own universe, so they come in and help out. But the 80s Turtles hold their own in battles. You know, the 80s Mighty helps the 2003 Raphael, takes his big fan down, lands on some bad guys. There are times where the two teams fight off the robotic foot soldiers in front of the Technodrome, and it shows them competent in their fighting. So they're not incompetent there. That's respectful. Again, they're helping the 2003 Turtles. That's competent there. They're all fighting the foot soldier robots. They're competent there. Shredder and Crane, they felt like they did in the original cartoon. The movie is an hour and 20 minutes. It goes by at a good pace. There's a lot of action. There's a point where the lair is attacked and they have to transport to the original Turtles, the original cartoon's home. And it was the creator's take on the 80s cartoon that, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, was very silly and was very goofy. Now, if you're basing it on the first 5-6 episodes, that's a different matter. And I think that's what a lot of people are basing it on. If you watch the first 5-6, the little almost mini-series, the first season of the original cartoon, yes, it was a bit more serious, although still a cartoon. But that's not the majority of the show. This comes from a guy that grew up with that show. How I got started in the Ninja Turtles is watching that show. When I'm 6, 7 years old, 1989, 1990, every Saturday morning I would watch on CBS. And that's what brought me to the dance, so to speak. It's because of that show that I watched the 1990 movie, the 1991 movie, and loved those two. The third film, not so much. And then that culminated in me going back to look at the original comic books. Wow, these are a lot more serious. And then as I got older, I'll be honest, when I got around the Next Mutation era, my interest died down. And then honestly, it was around the early 2000s, maybe even 2001 or so, when got a desktop computer, finally had internet, and started searching. Hey, I remember these guys. They had this thing called fan fiction, and I would read all this stuff. And yeah, a lot of the fan fiction is bad, and a girl pretty much going, I want to date a Ninja Turtle, so I'm going to write my character in there. But a lot of them is actually really rather well-written stories that go into the psyche and characteristics of the Ninja Turtles and made me go, wow, you can think of these guys much different, much deeper, you know, as actual characters. And then I was around the same time this show came about. Now, yes, this is still a cartoon that has its goofy moments. And yes, this is my favorite show. Are there issues? The music sucks. Okay, I can say that. The music on this show sucks. Some of the later seasons, like the Ninja Tribunal, not a big fan of. But I think this has a lot of merit, and I'm tired of this fucking show being buried. I'm tired of this fucking show being shit on. And it seems like the shitting on this is yet another fucking tirade to shit and bury on this fucking show that doesn't have a release. This release is someone homemade, although it looks fantastic. This is the only way you can fucking get it, because the DVDs are out of print, or you gotta put a fucking house up to get all of them, and even then you're not getting all of them, because like the last season was released except in Australia. And then, oh, Nickelodeon thinks this show doesn't exist. And then, oh, well, this one time we'll release like 2-3 DVDs with like 2-3 random episodes with no fanfare, no telling anybody, oh, they didn't do well. Yeah, you released 2-3 DVDs, you didn't tell anyone, no fanfare, you just put it out there, shitty cases, no rhyme or reason, only 2 or 3 episodes per DVD. Nickelodeon, fuck you. You don't release the show. That's why you can find the show on YouTube with no trouble, because this show has been buried. I'm tired of that shit. I'm fucking sick and tired of that fucking horse shit. And before the end of the month, good guy Lucas paid for me to review the first season of this, which I will by the end of the month. But I want to take my time on it, because I really enjoy the show. And just like, I think this is a fun movie. It has a lot of stuff to it. Not only does it full of action. Oh, I was getting to the 80s Turtles. Here's another thing to be a bear bad news. The first season of that show, yeah, a bit more serious, but a lot of it was goofy and silly. And it was their take on it. On how crazy and kooky that show was. A show that had killer fucking pizzas. Or you had little things that turned to The Taste of the Killer Pizzas was the title of a fucking episode. You had a guy using music to try to kill, or not even kill, the music to hypnotize people. You had a fucking episode where Leonardo fought an arcade machine. Or the bitch that came out of the arcade machine, to be fair. Don't give me this shit that the show is some fucking super serious. That's what it was doing a take on. And again, is this movie perfect? Yeah. I would take out the 80s Turtles, given the 2003 Mighty Nudies, because that was weird. You could easily edit that out. I'll give you that. There's a point later on where the Turtles are being scared and they're hugging Raph. That should be taken out too. That wasn't needed. So again, I'm not saying this is a 10 out of 10 perfect movie. If you edit a couple things, it would work. But let's not forget the times when many times that the 80s Turtles are competent during fight scenes. There's times that it does actually showcase the show fairly well, like Raph talking to the camera, and people are like, what the hell, who's he talking to? And Hun, who at this point has been turned to a turtle and is cool because he kind of looks like Slash, he's like, who are you talking to? Why do you keep doing that? I thought that's a rather fun, clever moment. The 80s version of Donnie, honestly, they make it out that him to be smarter than the 2003 Donnie. Because the 80s Donnie is able, I'm going to make the teleportation thing on a stick, and the 2K3 Donnie's like, what are you talking about? And the 80s Donnie's able to do it. In fact, the reason that they're not all fucking dead is because the original 80s Donnie throws these stars that fuck up the big shredder so they're not out of fucking existence. So really at the end, it's a combination where they're in the original comic book world. That's another great thing, to see the original black and white comics brought to life. And yet people like the Raphael talking like he's fucking Rorschach from Watchmen, as a friend of mine pointed out. And how dangerous and super serious. It's not like the 2003 doesn't get any special privileges. The original comic books beat them up, but at least there's some rhyme or reason to it. And like all of them, the original in 2003 take out the comic book shredder, which is take on how easily he got to take down the first comic book. Because really the first comic book, Shredder got taken out due to Pathene was off. Here it's them throwing a shitload of garbage on them, on the motherfucker. I love the black and white comic book world. I love the look and visuals of that. And when the Utrom Shredder becomes huge, you have the original comic book character steering the shit out of him. So he gets this big beam, so they realize, oh, that's the way to injure it. And all of them working together to back him out in order to get ready for the death blow. Even Bebop on Rocksteady helped save the fucking day. They accidentally unplugged something, they plugged it back in. That mixed in with the original Donnie throwing... So really, the death blow of the Utrom Shredder to save everything is all from the original cartoon characters. Bebop and Rocksteady plugging it back in, and original Donnie throwing some stars that explode. And you'll disrupt him for a bit. Again, do people just ignore that stuff? Yes, the original Toon World was goofy. Yeah, because it was goofy. I thought it was funny, was like, we gotta save April again. They saved April O'Neil a fucking lot in that show, because I know, because I've seen it. I grew up with the show. Oh, they walk around daylight. Yeah, that was part of the joke. The 2003 Turtles going, why do they walk around in daylight? They did that a lot in the original cartoon. They walked a shitload in daylight. And also, this may be controversial, I still like the 80s cartoon. Granted, it's part of his nostalgia reasons, but still, you know, the voice was by Rob Paulson, Cam Clark, Robert, was it? Oh God, I forgot. Was it, no, Townsend Coleman? I forget Mikey's voice actor. The voice actors work well. It's a silly, fun show. The music, I just say, the music in that show is better than the music in this show. I can admit that. The theme is better. The music is better. I can admit that. Yes, I prefer this show, and I do think it is a better show because, in my opinion, this try to take these at least a little bit more seriously, but still, you know, silly cartoon stuff. But there's a little bit more serious. I think the action is better. They're using their weapons more. Because isn't that the thing people complain about in Secret of the Ooze? They don't use their weapons. They use their weapons more here. They use like more martial arts. Because in the 80s cartoon, it was a lot of what environment can I use? And they do it in this movie. I thought that was rather appropriate. But I'm sorry. The 80s cartoon is not some fucking mythical 10 out of 10 show of epicness that is you can't say anything remotely critical about. Is that some fucking gold, platinum, perfect personality, perfect attitude, perfect being that you can't throw a couple remarks about? Whether it be technical aspects, where at times they would get fucking the wrong turtle with the wrong voice, or the wrong bandana on the wrong turtle. Whether it be the series episodes where they went to fucking England or Rome, and then also had some different voices there. And you know that era, those series episodes to me weren't really the best. The Red Sky episodes, I didn't really care about the new villains. I didn't give a fuck about the fifth guy. Zach, whatever the hell his name was, who turned to Bionic Man or whatever, or the Turtles and their new mutations. I didn't really care for that stuff either. Again, I'm sorry, I like the 80s cartoon, but it's not some fucking 10 out of 10 perfect thing. And to be perfectly honest, the 80s cartoon, sadly, it's what brought the Turtles to the dance. It's brought the popularity. It's what brought the Turtles into pop culture phenomenon forever. As in, it was a pop culture phenomenon for a time, I should say, but part of pop culture forever is because of the 80s cartoon. And I respect it, I liked it, I had fond memories watching it as a kid. It's still a fun show, but again, it's not some fucking perfect show. I think you could take a little bit of the piss out of it, since every other thing wants to kiss his ass and suck his dick. The 2012 cartoon, well, I liked the first season, well, I liked the first 2 seasons of the show, to be fair, but after that, it lost me, I'm sorry. When Raph started being afraid of riding horses and being turned to fucking plants and other fucking bullshit, and then that was a show that really started sucking the 80s cartoons dick. Like, hey, 2012, can you take the 80s dick out of your mouth, please? Oh, is it lodged in there? Okay. No wonder I can't fucking hear you. I guess maybe your nickname is Marble Mouth. And like, I like the 80s cartoon, but sadly, because it was the big thing that brought the Turtles to the public eye, it is now this fucking albatross around the franchise's neck. And what do I mean by that? Forever, this will be looked at as a kid's property that will never grow, that will never go further. It would be like if the Adam West Batman show, it was successful, but imagine if Adam West Batman was the thing that brought Batman into the actual pop culture, and so you would never get your Nolan Dark Knight movies, your Tim Burton Batman movies, your DC animated films like Batman Under the Red Hood or The Dark Knight Returns. You will never get that, because it will always be looked at as for kids. Well, Batman's a different story. Batman's a guy dressed up as a fucking bat, with villains like the Penguin, and a guy in green with question marks on him. You're saying that's not silly? But it's how you do it. It's how you approach the material. How silly you take it, or how serious you take it. A lot of these superheroes, I'm Captain America, Red, White, and Blue. Cue the Hulk Hogan theme song. I'm a real American. That's like Captain America's theme too. But if you take the approach of, say, the Chris Evans movies, okay, I can take it a bit more serious. Okay, cool, good job. You can do that. The closest that came for the Turtles to me is the 1990 movie and this show that gets fucking buried. The fact that they did these one guys did this documentary about the definitive history of the Ninja Turtles. This is only on for 7-8 years, but we're not even going to mention it for 30 fucking seconds. But it's definitive. But we want to do a part 2, even though it's been 6 fucking years. Yeah, good luck with that. But forever, that 80s cartoon will be the albatross around the franchise's neck, because it will never grow. Because they always go back to that. And I understand to a point. Me too. I love that cartoon. I like the cartoon. I grew up with the cartoon. I said every morning, Saturday morning, CBS. When I was 6-7 years old, throughout the years. Had the toys and the merchandise and all that jazz. But I would actually want to see these characters grow. But what happens? Michael Bay produced that Out of the Shadows, went back to the 80s cartoon. We got Bebop, we got Rocksteady, we got Crane, we got the Technodrome. Yeah, how did that work out for you? The film didn't do anything. But the 2012 cartoon, oh, the 80s cartoon. Rise of the TMNT. Oh, we gotta have the sensibility, the silliness of the 80s cartoon. We gotta reference the theme song. We gotta reference, that happening. Like, it's always that. It never fucking stops. It never stops. And so it will always go backwards to that focal point. And yes, again, I keep harping. I get it was the popular thing that brought him to the dance, but I would like the franchise to grow out of it. Go further. Go forward. Not keep going backward. Why do you think one of the reasons I get mad when you keep harping on these franchises, like, let's do another Halloween, great, we'll go backwards, let's do another. What is forwards? What's in the future? Where Halloween 2018 was going to be a sequel to the first movie. Well, this is going to be a sequel to the first movie. Of course, I can't really say that, because if someone said, we're going to make a sequel to Aliens, or Hits and New or Alive, I'd be up for it, so I can't really complain too much about that. And maybe that's not the same as this that I'm talking about, but it's just one of those things, just, people wonder why I'm not always so gung-ho about that, is, it's funny, people say I live in the past, and yet I'm saying stuff like this. So no, I do not think this film deserves the fucking hate that it gets. When they're all being trapped by the Ultron Shredder, and you see all these different universes of the 90s movies, and even the little fucking anime that they had in overseas, and different versions of the comic books, and oh, the Ultron Shredder, why was he the bad guy? Well, number one, this is a culmination of the 2003 cartoon, so why wouldn't it be their bad guy? Also, the 80s cartoon is more silly and goofy. That was the point of it. Did they go a bit too far in places? Yes. I said, if you edit a couple things, the times they did Mighty Nutties, the one time where they get scared, edit that out, boom. I'm sorry, a movie's not a 1, 2 out of 10 bad if I could give you 4 little quick edits. And even, the turtle van and the blimp, they make their appearance, able to take out these bad guys. It's one of those things where you have the Technodrome and the revamped version of Technodrome. That was cool to see. The voice of the 80s Turtles, they tried to do the best they could, but again, they could not get the original voices because it was non-union, so they were not allowed. And people forget the moments where you do see the competency of these guys, of these characters. And it was supposed to be like a nod to the 80s cartoon. That was the purpose of it. And you have one of the Turtles, Mikey loves the 80s Turtles. And you have Raph, he loves the comic book Turtles. I like that little different. So, and just little stuff for me, like Raphael, the 2K3. One of the reasons I love the show is Raphael's actually a badass and competent and not a fucking pussy, like he is in the 2012 cartoon. At least he became that way to me after the first 2 seasons. Like you have a monster episode. Raph gets turned in like 5 seconds, and then, oh, he's on a leash. And they follow him around on a leash, and he doesn't fight any monsters because he was too stupid and got turned, he's a vampire. Or, again, oh, don't fight these monsters, no, he got turned to a plant. And I would say, what is something this character is worth a shit? If the character died, it would make no difference. After the first 2 seasons, if you kill off that Raphael character in the 2012 cartoon, no difference would be made to the actual stories of the fucking show. That's just me, though. But yeah, like I said, I enjoy the movie. I think it was a fun trip down memory lane. It's for the anniversary Was it the 25th anniversary? Yeah, this is around 2009 or so. Did this came out? Yeah, 2009, 2010. And the original comic books, I want to say, was 84 that they were created. 94, 2004, 2009. Yeah. Oh yeah, and this DVD is not even from Nickelodeon. This is from overseas. I mean, it has the Nickelodeon thing here, but you can only get this from overseas. This was a gift someone sent to me. The one that was released in the US, which is literally this picture on the front, and that's it. So, despite what all these, high-profile YouTube critics can say, doesn't mean I have to agree with them. I think Turtles Forever is underrated. I don't think it deserves the shit that it's gotten. No, it's not a 10 out of 10 perfect thing. You know what? Neither was the 8 cartoon. It's not this fucking perfect goal. Oh my god, we need to praise and worship it. I need to worship it. Please. I'm sorry. It's not the case. It's a fun show, but it's not this thing that needs to have its dick sucked 24. I actually, fine with a little bit of taking the piss out of it. A little bit. This is a goofy, silly show. But again, this shows enough competence from them that people overlook, that I just literally said multiple times, where they hold their own in fights, or help the 2K3 Turtles, or get them from dimension to dimension. Again, original Donnie seems smarter than the 2K3 Donnie. Original Donnie throws the exploding stars to stop them from being obliterated. And then again, the original comic books world, that was a really cool thing to see visually. That was very neat to see. And a welcome surprise. And this whole universe that it brings up, that was also a very cool idea. And a Turtles Forever 2, I think someone asked me about that. And this day and age of Nickelodeon? No. Not with Nickelodeon, because I just, again, we will never see these characters. Like, I see the 2003 and Turtles Forever as some attempt of, it's still a kid's show, but trying to move a little bit forward to see what we can do and get away with. There's an episode of this cartoon, the 2003 one, where literally Baxter Stockman is falling apart throughout it, and is obsessed with April O'Neil. And it's kind of fairly gory in a way. Because off camera, you realize that Shredder's been cutting off Baxter Stockman's body parts, so each time he keeps missing a fucking part of him and has to replace with a robotic thing, so he makes himself the stuff with the skin, and then it's falling apart throughout it. I mean, or there's a part where there's this character that looks like Weapon X Wolverine. It's not him, but it looks like him. And there's a point where I think Splinter's, or maybe it's another thing, kicks the person. Either Splinter kicks him or Splinter kicks Bishop, one of the villains. And you see a shadow where the person gets hung and impaled on a fucking chain. It's just, again, it's attempt to do that. I'm like, okay, what's going to be further? No, we gotta go back to the 80s cartoon. And we gotta bury this. So we can get an actual season release of this, a complete set of this. Yeah, this is a homemade one that someone made. I appreciate them doing it. One of the best buys I've ever made. And now never gets talked about. No one ever talks about the show. Just like no one ever talks about this movie except the shit on it. But ooh, it did a little bit of picking at the 80s cartoon, so all of a sudden it's a 1 out of 10 movie. Again, I'm not saying there's zero merit to that. I've said for the 18th time, There's a couple stuff here that's a little bit overboard. I agree with you on that. But a little bit overboard does not mean 100% fucking junk. A little bit overboard does not mean it's 100% a piece of shit. Like so many people say this is nowadays. I don't agree with that part. I mean, I don't give number grades. I would say this is at least an 8 out of 10. The only reason it's not 10 out of 10 is if you there's a little bit more you could do with Turtle Van and Blimp Sequence. I think there's a little bit more action, a little bit more stuff you could have done with those two vehicles from the 80s world coming to our world. There's a little bit more you could do with those two. I don't even know the turtle, like with this blimp. You could do a little bit more with that. Also, edit some of that stuff I mentioned, and work out a thing with the Union and have the 80s Turtles actually voice those characters. So 2 or so points knocked off for that. So 8 out of 10 is still pretty good. That's just my opinion on it. So I know I went on for too long, but I just had to get a little bit of that ranting out of the way. And a little bit defending. So with that said, thanks for watching. Take care. We'll see you guys later. Bye-bye. Oh, and Nickelodeon, give this a natural release, you fuckwits. Later.